We're in graduate season, and it's time to celebrate the accomplishments of almost 10 million students worldwide. How many of you, while attending the procession, graduate or spectator, had a mild existential episode? Like, is it all worth it? I felt it during my master's studies in 2016, but because I wasn't down the Bitcoin rabbit hole yet, I didn't fully recognize the violation on value creation for the sake of preserving the monopoly on information. So let's dive in. Class is in session. It's Sir Ulric, and congrats to the graduates, but it's a shame that academia is contributing to the economic decay we all sense. State budget officers report in 2023 that $550 billion in expenditures was accounted for nationwide K-12 education. This is a 10% increase in just 2 years. The same report claims $260 billion in expenditures was accounted for nationwide higher education, which has increased 16% over the same time frame. Over $800 billion in government funding. This is not counting tuitions paid. This funding is rapidly increasing, and for what? The services are not improving, and many sign up for decades of debt repayment. My signal meter is red, and I'm just gonna say it. The fiat academic system we know is a Keynesian economic product and has failed the individual student. It's a product of theft. I say it's Keynesian because academia leverages government intervention to manage and satisfy aggregate academic demand. In contrast, Austrian economics focuses on individual behavior, market processes, and the importance of the free markets. But that's not to say that all students are failures. Rather, the education structure employed by most of the developed world creates an environment that picks winners and losers, as mentioned before, has not kept pace with the rate of technology and information growth in subject matter or infrastructure, and discourages free market of ideas while driving its participants to capitulate to a specific viewpoint. As an analogy to the fiat monetary system, it mirrors number one identically, has not kept pace with technology growth purposefully in my opinion, and discourages the free market of monetary networks to force their own monopolistic product. Now, I can tell you for certain no university will teach you what Marathon Digital Holdings does. They trade under the ticker symbol MARA, and their mission is to enhance the Bitcoin network by sustainably increasing the amount of computational power. They use vertically integrated technology, a vast Bitcoin treasury, diversified operations and strategy, and stranded energy to bring their shareholders reliable value. Check them out today. Universities have positioned themselves as the intermediary between the individual and the opportunity to work. And I don't fully blame them, for the lazy and often conspiring industries have enabled this relationship. It happens in sports all the time. The future star that quote unquote slips under the radar. What are you using a broken radar for if you're a scout or recruiter paid to pick talent? Hashtag 3-time MVP from a little Serbian town. Jobs have prereqs where they ask that you can do certain things, but then they request a college degree that doesn't necessarily relate to the job function. If you can prove you can do the job, why the need to jump through the extra hoop? How does learning a discipline in one building make you a better candidate than someone who learned the discipline in another, or even by themselves? If those buildings were so important, why are so many titans in multiple industries extremely successful that opted out of those buildings in the first place? And it has been clear that academia does not keep pace with technology or information growth. In fact, you can prove it yourself. Open up your favorite university catalog of courses, word search artificial intelligence, Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency. I searched the catalog of a famous public university local to me. They only had 2 AI courses. The centerpiece of technology advancement over the last 2 to 5 years isn't worth an urgent department redirection. And in order to even learn about blockchain scams, you had to attend their extensions program, not one course in their core or elective offerings. Bitcoin is the fastest growing asset in market cap over the last 15 years, and a major school doesn't have the word mentioned in its engineering catalog. But they will train you to write laws about Bitcoin in 2 public policy courses. Isn't that ironic? Political courses about apolitical money. These universities that refuse to teach honestly about Bitcoin will produce an entire stadium of freshly indoctrinated central banking acolytes that will jeer at the mere mention of it.
So I know this might feel polarizing, but I encourage you to keep an open mind right now.
No.
I see Bitcoin. It's decentralized and finite.
The Ohio State. Yeah, I'm talking about the byproduct of your culture. What could you possibly be teaching students that cause them to mock a productive system that works, especially for the developing world? Maybe because you're teaching an entire generation to hate prosperity and love bondage. These graduates' only hope is that they get close enough to the money printer to enrich themselves at the expense of others, or become cultural leaders that convince other people to feel guilty about productivity. Is this the be the change that all you professors mention at these graduation ceremonies? What a beautiful world you're encouraging. I can think of a few 20th century leaders that would nod in approval with the minds coming from the Ohio State and other historic universities. But because we have Bitcoin, we can opt out of the death cycle that enables the boom-bust economy, banks rug-pulling depositors, and government bailouts. For education, there are options to opt out as well. Homeschooling, if feasible. I was homeschooled in elementary. If not, add another topic to your child's development after school. When people make the most of their scarce time, it's amazing to see the fruits that can be reaped. It takes sacrifice, it takes hard work. Are you afraid of children losing foundational principles supplied by government education? A lot of good that did to generations under communism in China and the USSR. Government education didn't do away with the labor camps, they just reinforced the status quo. Freedom is an acquired taste, and you won't even know what you're missing until you take a sip. The current system does not want you to have true free market economic decision, so why would its indoctrination system be any different? For decades, academia has used its platform not to encourage free thought, but to manifest its current social agenda. The culture of academia has been the genesis of divisive political campaigns, chaotic demonstrations, and disrespect to private property. This doesn't sound like anything that Bitcoin or Bitcoiners bring to society. And no, I'm not talking about the Twitter circus. Rather, Bitcoiners that identify needs, build solutions, educate the curious, reinforce the disenfranchised. That sounds like something schools should do. But fiat incentives have caused even not-for-profit institutions to lose their way. If it wasn't for fiat inflation keeping us labor slaves, parents would surely make more rational and personal decisions about their child's education. We can all feel the destructive nature of the school system from kindergarten all the way to receiving PhDs. I do believe technology will continue to demonetize the monopoly universities and government education have on knowledge. You don't see it happening? How many computer-based trainings have you taken in the last decade versus the previous decade? How many encyclopedias have you seen lying around for research purpose in the last 20 years? The cost to educate will be driven so low due to technological and information abundance, anyone could afford education without fiat banking help or the empty validation of the government. Deflation through Bitcoin will make it so that you won't need 2 full-time incomes to prosper. Parents can bring their attention back to their children en masse. This would drive a social revolution of congeniality, lower crime, stable homes, less social strife. It's all because inflation is stealing our time. Bitcoin is a deflationary force that helps us get our time back and apply it to where it's needed, our family. We had the separation of church and state that was a fairy tale to many before the philosophies of John Locke gained traction, and of course the printing press coming along too. The idea of money without government was generally impractical until Bitcoin came. The idea of education without the state, yeah, that's a real possibility as well. Search within yourself. Is this a future that scares you enough to resist the opportunities on the horizon? Your feelings may tell of how much you're willing to continue to trade the abundance of our future students for increasing centralized control. I am Sir Ulric like my father before me. Bitcoin is freedom for those that will take it. For those that don't, the state has an alternative.